Oh man, the music's blaring. Well, hello everyone, my name is Swamp. And I'm now, for the first time ever, streaming to Discord and YouTube. It's remarkable. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. So I thought it'd be fun to watch this thing that Daily Wire put out today. The 1 year reunion after What is a Woman? If I can quit blaring all this fancy guitar music. So yeah, it says here, now that you've seen Matt Walsh's What is a Woman, you won't want to miss out on the 1 year reunion featuring the heroes from the documentary. And I'm assuming that it's okay for me to do this considering it's up for free on Twitter. Like I'm assuming that I won't get in trouble watching it in a group stream. I won't get in trouble for streaming it on YouTube with commentary and whatnot. I mean, I would think, right, that if it's available publicly for free on Twitter, I guess we'll find out, you know? I have no idea. But like I said, for the first time ever, streaming to 2 different platforms at once. This is a this is a landmark moment for the Swamp channel. Oh, all right, Flair. Thank you, sir. Throwing down some cash for the AR-15 build and the and ammo. I do need to update that though. I didn't update it after the amounts. I mean, I didn't update it after the Saturday stream. Should we do Super Chat Jukebox? Super Chat Jukebox for It's funny, I wasn't even thinking about it because this was just kind of an impromptu thing. We took forever on Discord trying to figure it out. How to get the audio and everything to work over there, but it seems like it's all working now. But yeah, let's Super Chat Jukebox. Take it away, Super Chat Jukebox.
Wish you'd wake up. Does the globalists have a plan? They just make jokes and go, oh, Joe Rogan took horse paste. Want to see my ivermectin? This is ivermectin for humans. Yeehaw!
Fantastic. It's always Alex Jones every time. All right, let's start it, man. You know, Without further ado, I say we start it.
One year ago, transgender ideology was spreading like a pandemic, infecting schools, workplaces, and government policy all around the country. Few people understood the enormity of what was happening. Fewer people knew how to talk about it, and fewer people still knew what to do to stop it. And then, Daily Wire Plus released Matt Walsh's What is a Woman?, our biggest production to date, bringing hundreds of thousands of you into the Daily Wire membership community, which now tops 1 million people.
What is a woman, Joe? What is a woman?
That documentary was fantastic.
What is a Woman, in many ways, defined 2022. On social media, the conversation surrounding What is a Woman garnered over 250 million views, and the film has been watched
All right, just to be nitpicky, I hate when people say things like 250 million. They want to use the word billion to make it sound like it's even more. Listen, 250 million is a lot. You don't have to say quarter billion. Sorry, that's just, it gets to me every time. It happens all the time when people talk about numbers for things. They want to try to make it seem like it's more than it is, which is just bizarre because, like I said, that's a lot. You don't need to make it seem like there's more.
It was even screened by the Nigerian mission to the United Nations during the meeting of the Annual Commission on the Status of Women. After What is a Woman?, Dictionary.com named woman the word of the year.
Can you please define for me, what is a woman?
What is a woman?
What is a woman?
What is a woman?
Oh, now again, that's a whole other thing.
Not only did the movie reach a wide audience, the film led to a 1,000% spike in discussions of the child mutilation procedures performed in the name of transgenderism. This groundswell of public support then moved from living rooms and auditoriums into the streets and into state capitals. Matt hosted the largest rally in the nation against radical gender ideology. He testified before the Tennessee House, and he stood by as Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves signed a ban on child mutilation into law. As Matt continued to expose the harms of chemical castration drugs, cross-sex hormones, and the surgical removal of healthy body parts from children, more and more state legislators began to step up to protect children and ban these barbaric practices. Now, 1 year since this historic release, we have some never-before-seen footage.
They're dropping so much stuff right now. There's I just saw on Twitter as well that Matt Walsh posted a video an hour ago, I guess with another interview, a longer interview with the swimmer, the female swimmer who was against Leah Thomas. Oh, crap. I reset it. Got to roll it back now. So I'll have to check that out too. That's cool. I guess No Longer Anonymous is what we're seeing here. 27 minutes long. There's a teammate of Leah Thomas appeared in What is a Woman anonymously. A few days ago, she came to us and said she is ready to come out publicly and tell her story. I had a longer conversation with Paula where she revealed a number of details that weren't covered in the film. Oh, well. There you go.
State legislators began to step up to protect children and ban these barbaric practices. Now, 1 year since this historic release, we have some never-before-seen footage from What is a Woman? And we'll be joined by the heroes of the film, who will bring us some important updates to the story. Now that everybody in the world has seen What is a Woman, I'm very pleased to be joined for a reunion by the stars of the movie. We have the director here, Justin Folk. We have the on-screen star of the movie, the one and only Matt Walsh. I am tepidly pleased to be joined by you two. I'm extraordinarily pleased to be joined by both of you, Dr. Miriam Grossman and Scott Nugent. First of all, thank you both for coming in for this 1 year anniversary of the film. Dr. Grossman, I'd like to start with you. You are a psychiatrist, you're an author, you have a new book coming out, Lost in Transnation. Very important topic, and I'm a sucker for a good pun, so I very much look forward to that book. You're still practicing. The science seems pretty clear to me, and yet so many people in your field have affirmed the transgender ideology, especially for children. Where does the field stand?
Well, I think it's important to begin with just acknowledging the tremendous pain that's going on in homes all over the country because of this issue. And I think that that's sometimes lost among all the discussions that we have on this topic, is the fact that parents are ambushed, they're caught unaware until one day at dinner, their child announces that they're the opposite sex and they would like a different name, pronouns, and they would like an appointment to go get hormones. And this is catastrophic for many families. And it ends up being the most difficult thing they've ever been through. And the point that I want to drive home here is that this is a man-made catastrophe. This is man-made. And that, my goal right now is to educate families so that they are prepared before this happens. They need the education and the tools at their fingertips before this happens in their families. So if their kid is 2 or 5 or whatever age they are, they have to understand that this may be in the cards for them. Their kid may one day come home and make this announcement and tell their parents, you know what, if you're not willing to support me in this journey, I'm going to find a family that is willing to. And parents have to be prepared. So that's really the gist of what my book is about.
I think a lot of people, they just hear about this issue.
I remember hearing about this stuff
TV.
when I was in college, and definitely never thought it was going to get this crazy. This has gotten way, way beyond crazy. And I want to say when I was in college, it was 2010, I think. 2010, 2011, I think, when I met, like, a friend of mine said they were trans and blah, blah. At that time, almost no one even knew what the hell they were talking about. And now we've got a Disney remake of Hercules with a disabled trans pansexual person as Hercules. This accelerated quite quickly.
Not from Matt Walsh, but they'll hear about it from the establishment media, and it'll all be glossed over, and they'll be told that if you don't engage in the transgender ideology, you're harming your children. Your children could kill themselves. You don't want that, do you? Okay, go along to get along. Scott, you have experienced the transgender ideology more intimately than most people have. You've seen this up close. Your testimony in the movie, it's the most powerful part of the movie. I think it resonates for a lot of people to see this really up close.
Well, what I try to do in the movie is just tell the truth. And, you know, when the narrative is talked to by conservatives or by people that we think are going to have a certain position, it's gotten glossed over with the idea that, hey, they don't really know what's going on. But as a lesbian, as somebody that is medically transitioned, I'm kind of am the rainbow. When I'm coming up and telling people that, listen, you know, all 7 studies that came out that said that medically transitioning children is beneficial have been retracted or modified. The only one long-term study that's out there finds that these kids are going to be more suicidal 7 to 10 years after. So we're giving these kids, you know, 3-4 times the doses of normal hormones. They're suicidal. They're going to be the most suicidal after. We have Europe shutting things down left and right. We have Sweden, where the spines of girls aren't fusing together properly because of puberty blockers. We are nuts right now. And I think it's funny, in the last year, it's been the worst year of my life. I've been kicked off of Twitter 3 times. I've been fired by my non-binary manager who's married to a transgender woman. I've been kicked off of YouTube. I mean, my life has been a nightmare. And I, of all people, have been suppressed the most with my word, because I make the most sense, and that's the truth.
Right. You're telling the truth emotionally and the medical truth as well. Mm-hmm. And that's why, you know, you and I and everyone who's doing that, it gets into a lot. We're simply correcting the misinformation that exists.
Absolutely.
And that is my concern, that parents have misinformation from the schools, from their pediatricians, from their therapists and from our government.
Absolutely. And you talked about the dinner table, where they come out. Well, at that point, Dr. Grossman, the hook is in. From my perspective, I've been there. I never fit in. I was same-sex attracted. I skipped a grade. All these kids don't feel like they fit in. They're either autistic or mentally gifted or mentally ill or abused families. All the things that we don't want to admit because we think is so transphobic, but it's the truth. They don't fit in. And so we're telling them that they get to fit in by all these people that we're supposed to believe. So that hook is in. By the time they go home, you're dead in the water.
Right. That's right. By the time the announcement is made, it's going to be tough.
The kids are given a framework for understanding what oftentimes are just normal childhood emotions, and especially adolescence, puberty. You're feeling not at home in your own body. You're feeling like something's not exactly right. That's normal. The trans ideology comes along and says to the kids, well, okay, you're feeling that way. Here's how to make sense of it. Mm-hmm. And then it all kind of comes in place. And once that, to Scott's point, once that locks in place, it's like
you don't want to get
parents are
well, but you know what? People. It really starts years before that. It starts when they're 4 years old, and their nursery school teacher reads them I Am Jazz, and it says in there, I'm a girl who was born in a boy's body with a girl's brain. You tell that to a 3 or 4 year old, that's going to stick.
But why are we telling kids that? I mean, there has to be a why. And the why is this. I think this really enlightens people. In 2015, there were 22 kids in the state of Texas that were on puberty blockers. On a 4-year spread, that yields about $4.6 million worth of profit. 2 years later, after the governor started to get $2.5 million worth of donations, it went to 4,000%. That 4,000% went from 4.6 million to just under $100 million. Just in that little area. So why is it that we're medically transitioning kids? It's because we're enlightened, or it's because we have a whole bunch of people that are in these business meetings saying that, hey, we're going to have the unicorn farts, the glitter bombs, the gay people are going to be right behind.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say is like, there's a money aspect for some people, for sure. I mean, and obviously it plays a role, and probably a big role for a lot of people, but that's not the only reason. It's definitely, there's definitely a lot more to it that is a sickness that's been very, very deeply embedded in the society. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think that overall, right, Scott Nugent is correct. But yeah, it's definitely, it's not just a money thing. The people that are pushing it, at least, it's not just a money thing.
Behind us, yelling and screaming, telling everybody that they're transphobic. We're going to be the light. Everybody's going to buy our product. This is going to be great. And we're going to be protected for about 10 years. We're going to make so much money. We're going to write a check afterwards. And we're going to be done. Those people that are doing that right now need to go to prison.
Because you're citing these studies of all the promised benefits of the transition for adults and especially now for kids. They're not coming true. And the data that we have before us, including the largest data sets, the biggest studies on it, are actually showing that either they don't accomplish those goals, or sometimes they undermine those goals when we're talking about anxiety, depression, suicidality. And all of this, we are told, is in the name of inclusion. Well, look at people who have been excluded from the conversation in the mainstream, and the particular vitriol that you, Scott, have been met with. So now we're at the beginning of Pride Month. What a great way to kick off Pride Month, all Absolutely. Here together, telling the truth about this.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the studies, the studies that tell us what happened to these children. There aren't any.
Well, I'm going to interrupt.
Oh, go ahead.
We have studies from the earlier cohort, not from the ROGD, these kids right now. But from the earlier cohort, we have studies. They're very poor studies, very poor. And this is part of the misinformation that parents are getting. When you go to your pediatrician or you go to this guidance counselor at school and they say, this is all, established and well-researched and there's a consensus, there's a medical consensus. Dr. Admiral Levine says to the whole country from Washington, there's a medical consensus. No, there is not.
And that's not transphobic.
There is a debate raging, a fierce debate, an international debate that is raging between medical and psychological professionals on this point of how do we help these kids?
Right.
And as Scott just mentioned, Western Europe, Scandinavia, there's now a number of countries who are doing a 180, and they are severely restricting, if not banning, these medical interventions that in this country you can get in 20 minutes.
Well, heck,
real quick. Like I said, this is kind of an impromptu stream. I was just going to go to Discord, and then I realized that I could stream both, YouTube and Discord. So I didn't really have anything necessarily planned except for watching this and reacting to it. But of course, since we're here, make sure you like the stream, of course. Check out the merch, There's the Swamp Year 2 pint glass for your beers out there now. The Swamp Armory is still out there. So I don't think that I could get in trouble for this stream, since like I said, it's on Twitter for free and anyone can watch it. They just posted it like a few hours ago, so I don't think there's any copyright issues, but I guess we'll see. Either way, let's have a good time until they tell us that we can't anymore, as tends to happen on YouTube.
The president just said that, hey, we need to trans younger, faster, and include surgeries like I did that have a 67% complication rate. That my doctor charged my insurance company $257,000 just for him. A total of about $357,000 before complications. After complications, we're up to $1.3 million. I get reoccurring infections 4 last year. And that's going to end my life early. And this is a big deal.
This is also why, I'm curious what you guys think about this, but the question of studies, because it's correct that there aren't any reliable studies. But I tend to think that once we get into this back and forth about we need studies, there are no studies, it's already a losing game in some ways. Because my answer is always, when someone says, well, look at the studies, I don't care about the studies because, number one, this is common sense. This is just a basic fundamental fact that a young boy who says he's a girl is not a girl, so I don't need a study on that. True. And I also think that there's another point about this that I don't hear raised very often, which is that the claim that we need to transition kids now because if we don't, they're going to commit suicide. Well, if that's true, and if it's also true that there's always been all these trans people out there, and they just were, this is not a social contagion. There's always been trans people, but they just didn't feel comfortable coming out. Well, then if we look back through history, we should find historically for centuries just kids killing themselves constantly because they weren't being affirmed, and that didn't even exist. And yet we don't. That didn't exist up until very recently. Right. The childhood suicide phenomenon is very modern.
What her
didn't start doing
answer to that is.
So
that's definitely true.
You have all in your
apparently
respective fields pushed back against this.
Apparently, though, she's not going to get to answer.
We are here at Pride Month.
Yep.
It's the beginning of Pride Month. Scott, you've pushed back
big time
on that front as much as anybody. So,
well, what I find is that most gays and lesbians, and even transgender people, when you get us alone, we all think that medically transitioning children is nuts. We all think that the LGBTQ needs to be out of the school system. Unfortunately, there's not very many people that are saying that out loud. So I came up with this idea. The whole month of Pride, we're doing an anti-counter Pride protest run by gays and lesbians and transgender people and gays against groomers. And we're starting what's called the Rainbow Rebellion. I have hundreds of videos of all trans, gays, lesbians, bisexuals saying one thing. LGBTQ, get away from kids. We don't belong there. We're a soft place to fall for adults and adults only. Perverts and moneymongers, get away from children. And that's coming from the rainbow, my friend.
Right.
The rainbow.
Expect to be excluded more than just about anybody.
I don't stop. I think people have probably gotten that by now. You're not going to stop me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, we do have to stop right now. Yep. We have to move on to the next segment. So wonderful to be with both of you, Dr. Grossman, Scott. You two, you're sticking around. We've got a lot more coming up in just a moment.
What do you do inside the home usually? Do you eat inside the home, or do you eat outside, or is this basically just for sleeping?
She's saying first she must clean inside of the house every day, and they also cook inside of the house. And after cooking, she give the young children the food supply.
Sorry, Mike was muted. Is it more clips from the Africa part? Well, if you were on Discord, maybe my mic wasn't muted. I don't know. This is the first time I've had two streams going at the same time. Anyway, more clips from the Africa part of the movie, and they didn't put the Africa filter over the film this time. That yellowy orangey filter over the video. It's just actual true colors. It's amazing. That was I think I was told that it's racist to put that filter over it, but it looks freaking badass. So, you know, and it fits. I don't know what to tell you. It's hot as shit there. What do you want?
And she's the one to tell them time to sleep.
Is it hard work to keep the home? No?
No. Keeping the house clean and taking care of the young children, that is their duty. So they see like it's not much work.
What do you think is the secret to a happy marriage?
Okay, number one, having kids. That is to make a family to run smoothly, because always a man needs the children. If you have kids, that's number one. Secondly, you take care of your husband very well.
You know, where I come from, there are a lot of people who think that the secret to be happy is to not have kids. In my culture, where I come from, lots of people are very depressed. Do you have depression here? No? No depression?
No depression.
People are happy.
People are very happy and friendly.
Can we bring them over here? Can they teach in our schools? I didn't see any therapists.
Yeah, we were saying we should have invited that. Paul was our translator. We should have. Would have been nice to have him here at the Roundtable.
Yeah,
hard to get a hold of him, but
well worth the flight over here.
Yeah.
I think
it would have been hard to get a hold of him.
Probably the highlight of the movie. And I'll tell you, sometimes around here, when people go on filming excursions,
it's that subtle comedy. That's something I would have said. Oh yeah, I'd like to have him here. It's kind of hard to get a hold of him though. It's also the kind of thing that makes people call me racist, which is just ridiculous. I guarantee you the translator wouldn't think it was racist.
sometimes I get a little envious. You know, they go to Italy or something, they go to the United Kingdom. When you guys went to Africa in the heat and the bugs, and I was not envious. But it was worth it.
A lot of flies.
A lot of flies.
You would have been even less envious if you were in the security meetings that we had here at Daily Wire. We had probably 3 of them where we had to have conversations about, like, what do you do if you get kidnapped by terrorists and that sort of thing. And we were informed that Jeremy informed us he wouldn't pay a ransom, at least not for me. So just how it is. I thought we were excited to go, but the one thing going there was we didn't really know. It was a little bit of a fishing expedition because we didn't know exactly what they would say. And the whole idea was to take these Western ideas about gender and hold it up in front of these people and just see how they react to it. We had a pretty good idea of how they would react, but of course there's no way to know. And also, Western culture has the actual real ideological colonialism that happens on part of the left is so pervasive that it's impossible to know how far these ideas have reached.
And the fear, I think, comes from this ironic fact that when the libs are promoting gender ideology, they'll often try to couch it in indigenous culture. So they'll say, actually, the indigenous peoples of Africa and America, they've long understood that gender is a spectrum. They have the
and they love saying that.
Two-spiritedness. But then you go and talk to the indigenous people.
The two spirits, this has been known forever. And then you go and look anything into it at all for 5 seconds and you go, no. That is not true at all.
They say not.
Well, I think that was the root of the idea itself. I think Matt had this idea to go to one of these places where we often hear from progressives like, oh no, this is normal. Actually, it's happening over here. Actually, it's everywhere. And we just wanted to test that theory out a bit. And we had looked at different places around the world that we could go. We settled on the Maasai people because they're fairly open to outsiders coming in and talking to them. So we thought that might be a good thing and not be murdered when we showed up. But
you go to Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, exactly. No, we had talked about some of that. We talked about going to talk to the Aborigines, and Australia had really crazy COVID restrictions, so we couldn't get in there. But the Maasai people were perfect for this. And to Matt's point, we didn't know exactly what they were going to say, but it was refreshing to hear their point of view and that they weren't bogged down by all this crazy ideology. I mean, they're worried about other things. They're worried about lions coming in and eating their people. They're not worried about the crazy notions of gender that we hear every day.
And they had an important perspective too, talk about not knowing what they would say, which is, you talk to a lot of even conservative people in America, you say, what is a woman? And they'll say, 2 X chromosomes. What is a woman? It's just a uterus or something. Their answer was a little different than that. Their answer was the woman is the one who does the duty of the woman.
It was tied to family. It was tied to procreation and family.
Yeah.
That was their first answer. When we first asked the question, they started talking about the duties and responsibilities of a woman versus a man. And the reason they answered that way is because at first it didn't even occur to them that we would be asking on a more basic level than that. They just assumed that we knew that. But it did, once we got past the basic stuff and they explained that, women don't have penises, then it always did come back to responsibility. I thought it was really interesting in that clip, asking her if she's happy, and her first answer was, well, yeah, taking care of my kids and I'm taking care of my husband, of course I'm happy. Which is actually, we talked to Carl Trueman in the film also, who wrote the book Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self, and he makes this point in the book that if our conception of happiness is very modern, and it's all tied to how we feel, but he makes the point in the book that if you go back to your great-grandfather and you ask him, are you happy? He's going to immediately talk about his job, caring for his family. And if he's doing that, of course he's happy. And so he makes that point in the book. And then we go to a tribe that essentially lives in the past. And that's exactly how they think.
Now, my favorite moments in the film were really people who were not so happy. And they didn't come back here for the reunion. I don't know, maybe their responses are lost in the mail or something. My favorite one was that professor guy who kept on getting so angry that you brought up the notion of the truth. I also loved the pixie haircut lady who entertained your suggestion that because you watched Sex and the City, you might really be a woman. With the hostile interviews, 1, how'd you keep a straight face? 2, how did you keep most of them in the room most of the time? 3, did the ones who didn't catch on, did they ever figure it out?
I think, yeah, there was always, one thing we discovered is like psychologically, people don't like to get up and leave. So we were able to exploit that. People will sit there for much longer than you think. I think also their position is so crazy that it's hard for them, it's hard for them to figure out exactly what we're going with. But I think, the whole point was we kept a neutral sort of position, and we just asked questions. And as long as we could bring it back to the question every time, they would still stand there. But there'd be that moment where you could tell where something flips in their minds and they start to realize This isn't exactly how they thought it was going to go. And it's always when, like the first time they get a real question, not a hard question, but just a real one. And it was often a question that I didn't think would send up any alarm bells for them. Just something really basic. Like one question that tripped them up a lot was, okay, what is the difference between sex and gender? You claim there's a difference. What is it? Can you explain it? And I think for every one of our hostile interviews, that question was difficult for them in a way that I didn't think it would be. Yeah.
And by the way, Matt's being pretty modest about this too, because I do feel that people would normally get up and leave at a certain situation, but he just has it's just an amazing ability to engage but not show anything. So they're engaging with Matt, but they're trying to read him, and they're not getting anything. And that just kind of like, it just prolongs things.
Psychopathy is, I think, the word.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And so I think that actually extended things out a bit. But what was interesting is that, that we went in there and
isn't that a weird one though? Is that the sex and gender distinction in general was their idea in the first place? They made that up. Aw, dang it. Hold on. Son of a bitch.
Her ideology was...
I accidentally knocked it to a different point. Let's see where...
We had to have conversations about, like, what do you do if you get kidnapped by terrorists?
What? We're at that, okay. Dang it. My bad. Oh, and now Twitter's lagging. That's the kind of technical know-how you get on the Swamp Channel. Oh, come on. Twitter now won't even load.
Australia had really crazy COVID restrictions, so we couldn't get in there.
Wait, don't we pass that?
And that's exactly how they think.
Now, my favorite moments in the film
there we
were
go.
Really people who were not so...
I can't skip. Let me get back to where we were. Son of a bitch.
Think would
there,
send
finally.
up any alarm
Jeez.
bells for them.
My bad.
Just something really basic. Like one question that tripped them up a lot was, okay, what is the difference between sex and gender? You claim there's a difference. What is it? Can you explain it? And I think for every one of our hostile interviews, that question was difficult for them in a way that I didn't think it would be.
Yeah. And by the way, Matt's being pretty modest about this too, because I do feel that people would normally get up and leave at a certain situation, but he just has it's just an amazing ability to engage but not show anything. So they're engaging with Matt, but they're trying to read him, and they're not getting anything. And that just kind of like, it just prolongs things.
Psychopathy is, I think, the word.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And so I think that actually extended things out a bit. But what was interesting is that that we went in there and we basically broke into their bubble. A lot of these people are not challenged. You mentioned the professor. Like, he spends all day talking to people that just nod at everything that he says. And so the moment he gets asked a real question, which to what Matt just said was a very basic question, he just unraveled. It was fascinating to watch these conversations take place.
Guys, I also want to say, Justin also had the hard job for this in many ways, but especially because in these the really, the awkward interviews, the great thing is once the interview was over, I get to just leave, and he has to stay there and clean up all the equipment and stuff.
Yeah,
which was interesting, especially for like the congressman who stormed out, but we're in his office. Yeah, so he stormed out, but he's there. And after it was over, I said, "Okay, see you guys in the car."
Matt hits the road. He's getting a hamburger, and we're like, we're in there for another 20 minutes.
Sorry, Congressman, we'll be out by evening. A lot of those interviews were very funny, especially the poor professor guy. You can't help but laugh at him. You can't help but laugh at their befuddlement. One of the interviews was a little bit less funny, and it was one.
But I just gotta say, it's really bizarre that they have such a hard time with that whole gender and sex thing. Like I said, when they're the ones that came up with the distinction. And that was the only thing that they had that I could actually say to people, okay, I can understand your logic here, saying that gender and sex are different. because you're acknowledging biological reality and then saying there's this other like metaphysical, oh, how I feel about things. And that's just, I mean, it's stupid, but sure, that's something you can't prove or disprove. It's just a random, okay. It doesn't really mean anything. And now they've backed themselves into a corner on that. They've ruined the distinction. It's not like it was the critics who ruined the distinction. That was one of the only things that I was like, well, okay, sure. I mean, I don't see why we need to make that distinction, but if that's what you want to say, fine. That gender and sex are different, but they abandoned it, and it's made their whole argument even less logical. It's made the whole argument even more nonsensical, and it was their own doing.
One of the people who had actually some answers to your questions, they were just really pretty dark answers. I'm thinking about Marcy Bowers. Marcy Bowers seems to know what he's doing. To me, that's a hell of a lot spookier than someone who is just a little bit confused. Has there been any update with Dr. Bowers?
Well, and you're right, because that was one, it's probably the only person we talked to on that side who was willing to answer questions. And he did show a willingness to sort of admit what this is. And now, as far as I know, Marcy Bowers is now the president of WPATH. And at the time, he was in the organization. WPATH is the World Professional Association of Transgender Health, which is like the #1 trans organization in the world. They set the standard that all the other medical organizations follow. And now he's in charge of that organization, which happened after.
When we talked to Marcy Bowers, Marcy was on par with breaking the world record of the most gender transition surgeries within months. And so I assume that's already taken place by now.
That is a dark and dubious title to hold. But
there were dark things in that interview that that don't make it into the film just because we got to cut down for time. And also it went in directions that didn't directly have to do with the topic, so we couldn't put it in the film. But
can I ask what some of those are?
Yeah, well, one example that comes immediately to mind is he admitted to cutting off a person's penis who was not gender dysphoric, and the complaint of the man who wanted his penis amputated was that it was ugly. So we had this conversation about where Marcy Bowers is justifying cutting off the ugly penis.
I'm sorry, that's not funny, but I just didn't know that I was eligible for penile removal. Penis was ugly. Man, talk about someone who belongs in prison. A man says his penis is ugly, and so you go, well, son of a bitch, let's cut it off. What? Holy crap.
About it. And he says, well, it was really ugly. It was a really ugly piece.
Marcy,
yeah, that 100% that happened.
Which is ironic because Matt had just brought the point of trans ableism, and if somebody comes in to Marcy and says, hey, I don't like my arm, I want you to cut it off, I have another appendage, I just don't like it.
It's a real body integrity disorder.
Right, and Matt had just brought that up previously, not minutes before, and then talks about this other patient that wants to get rid of his penis because it's ugly. And Marcy even says, oh, it was ugly. Remember that moment? It looked like, what did Marcy describe it as? A rotten toadstool. So we had a lot of rich description in that interview.
It's amazing that the arguments all differ. You know, I'm secretly a woman. I have a toadstool of an appendage. I have this, I have that.
Yeah.
But the prescription is always the same.
Yeah.
Chop it off. Sterilize yourself. Try to become something that is not in accord with your nature. A lot of pushback against all of this, including against the doctors who are a little bit more on our side. Dr. Debra Soh, who was in the movie, was spied upon giving her interview, and there was a radical gender ideologue outside who accosted Debra after the interview and demanded that she delete the footage.
Yeah, I'll let Justin talk about that because I know that, but it did prove exactly the point she was making in the interview.
Yeah, it was bizarre because she was talking about how you're not allowed to talk about certain things in this community.
And she was the one too that a lot of people really said she was nuts when she said that pretty soon we'll only have two kinds of sports and then it'll be male and transgender. I'm assuming everyone who's watching has seen this film. And but you remember that when she said that? And I remember seeing some things online how people acting like, well, no, that's crazy. I mean, maybe you'll get a third category, which is transgender sports. No. She was 100% right. And here we are a year later, and it's extremely evident that she was right. It's extremely obvious to say that she was right. There's male sports, and then there's just transgender sports, which can include biological women, but is not limited to biological women. Clown world.
And we had just finished the interview, and she was confronted by this person, and this person demanded that we didn't like the conversation and demanded that we delete all the footage.
Is it that you didn't appreciate what I was saying? So I'm not trying to offend anyone with what I'm saying. I would honestly like to understand.
You're trying to express yourself as being a scientist.
Well, I am a scientist.
And research was always done, even by the Nazis, for goodness sake.
Okay, so you're comparing sex researchers to Nazis?
I'm not comparing sex researchers. I'm comparing the type of conclusions you're making to the same type of conclusions other people try to make. And I don't want to get into a debate right now about this.
I mean, I appreciate your feedback. I wish that you would consider the things that I say based on the merit as opposed to it being an emotional evaluation.
I was trying. I just hope you listen to the community.
I do, and I'm coming from a place of, as I said, I grew up in the gay community. I see a lot of what's happening right now is anti-gay.
You say that, but as a cis heterosexual woman.
Okay. Would you like a copy of my book?
No.
Are you sure?
I heard your interview and it was wonderful.
All right.
We are now joined by a...
Wait a minute. I really would like a further explanation as to how this person heard the interview. Because didn't they say that this person was like outside after they interviewed? Like right after the interview? Or was this after the film came out? Because I don't think that this person would actually watch the film, right? And, man, no one is actually doing more to promote Nazism than these crazy gender ideologues. What you're saying is, it's like the Nazis. Oh, really? The Nazis were downright logical. Well, I didn't know that. Thank you. This is not making the point that you think that it's making, because you are clearly nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Paragon of patience. I think more patience than any of us would have had. Dr. Debra Soh, as well as by Sarah Stockton, another hero of the movie. Debra, got to start with you, because, you know, cisgender women, they're some of my very favorite people, actually, and you were castigated for being such a maligned person, and you were attacked, rhetorically at least, by this person who had been listening in, and because you came to certain scientific conclusions, called you a Nazi.
Yeah, clearly the face of a Nazi, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah, a little mustache.
I mean, I literally had just finished the interview with Matt and Justin, and
oh well, I guess I jumped to the gun asking the question.
Outside, and all I could think was, what was I just saying? Like, wasn't I just saying this exact thing? And it was just very surreal to me. In that clip, I was very Canadian in terms of how polite I was being. Trust me.
The real issue is she's a good-looking woman. And if there's anything we learned from Riley Gaines and all she went through with at that college where they trapped her in a room and demand ransom and all that stuff and threatened to kill her, is they cannot stand a good-looking woman.
If that happened today, I would not be that nice. I feel that my perspective and my experiences over the last year and a half since we filmed that have changed quite a bit in terms of how I see the activists. I mean, I before came to the table really trying to build bridges, trying to have compassion and understanding, and trying to compromise, and really trying to meet them halfway. And I've realized that it's just not possible. It's not going to happen. These people are not interested in being reasonable, in coming to any common ground.
I'm glad to hear she's come to this conclusion.
Some of his commentary, and you as well. And honestly, I think the people criticizing you guys are way out of line because they do not know what it is like. They don't know what all of us have had to deal with the things that we say and the harassment we face. It's constant, it's unrelenting, it is unhinged. And so, yeah, I mean, the only thing I think I would have done differently is maybe not offered my book.
I thought that was great. And we talked about this in the green room, but I thought you handled it perfectly. You handled it perfectly.
It was so impressive.
And it kind of, the way you're feeling about it kind of reminds me in some ways of the entire film, because this is a conversation we had while we were filming it, where I would go to Justin and say, I feel like I need to yell at these people. And instead of just sitting there and listening to them, we need to do one where I could just go yell at them. But we always pulled back from that because we realized, no, we're being reasonable. Let them be.
It was definitely the best way to do it.
That contrast is really revealing.
I've seen that, especially from like Christian, more hardcore Christian activist types. I don't mean Christian activists. I mean political activists who happen to be Christian, saying that he should have pushed back a lot harder. No, that's what makes the film. The fact that he doesn't really push back on them and just asks them questions, that's what makes it. You give your opponent just enough rope to hang themselves. I mean, if he was combative and arguing, the film wouldn't be anywhere near as powerful as it is. The fact that all he has to do is say, wait, the truth is transphobic? Tell me more about that. You made the assertion that telling the truth is transphobic. So, yeah, can you explain that? If he had been like, let's look at these dumbasses, it wouldn't have been as good of a movie. And actually, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it at all. The fact that all the humor comes from the gender ideologues is what makes the film. Matt Walsh isn't telling jokes or doing gotcha moments with them. It's just listening to them and seeing his face. Just static expression, looking at them while they're talking. It's brilliant.
Which you really find is in microcosm in that clip there.
So you've had this change in your mind in terms of at least what is possible in communicating, and I agree with you. We've all been in political fights, and the pushback from the pro-trans activists, it is another thing entirely. It is not different in degree, it's different in kind. And Sarah, you've obviously had a major shift in your views here, because you once, you're a marriage and family therapist, you once supported, advocated for...
Worked with Marcy.
You worked with Marcy Bowers, now the head of WPATH, and one of the people most clearly pushing transing the kids, and you supported those policies, and then you changed your mind.
Yeah. And I think what was really weird about the documentary, it's not even just anti-trans. I got articles written about me. They came from me around the furry segment. And they wrote an article in which, claimed that I was lying to them because I couldn't give them a name of who I was speaking about. And I was just like, wow, we're not even interested in the truth. Like you said, we're not
a HIPAA violation too?
Right. Yes. And I said, you know where I live and where I practice. So it's process of elimination of schools. So I think that's been really concerning. And since then, I get calls, I would say at least five a day about this from parents and counselors. And it's way worse than I thought it was a year ago.
So what are these people calling you to ask?
So one of the big things is I got out of treating trans for about 6-7 years. So now to be back in it, now I would say I'm back. 80% of my clients are dealing with this stuff, but they are calling me because schools are transitioning their kids without parents' consent. They are getting placed in gym classes with other genders.
I did see I saw a bunch of stuff when this documentary came out, and when that story broke about the kids acting like animals. I remember that when people were saying, this is totally made up, totally fake. And like you could go online and find videos of it where this was happening. This was totally made up. It's exactly what they did with the transgender kid thing. 5 years ago, when you talked about the fact that there was kids that were being transitioned, they said, that's totally fake. That's a far right conspiracy. It's not happening. This isn't real. Look what they say now. Now they say you're a bigot if you don't support it. And you say, well, I thought this wasn't happening in the first place. So that tells you, and everything's accelerating. So it's not going to take another 5 years. It's going to be about 2 years from now when they're going to say, why are you such a bigot for not affirming the cat identity of this young person? And you go, well, wait a minute. Weren't you guys writing articles and doing hit pieces about how this was fake and it wasn't happening and it was made up and it was total nonsense? And now you're saying that, well, if you don't accept it, you're a bigot. You know that's coming. One of the many terrible things that's heading our way. Let me just put it this. I'd be more willing to put up with and try to deal with the trans speciesness than the map culture that's clearly coming our way. The legitimizing minor attracted person. I'd rather talk about and discuss and deal with a kid who thinks he's a cat than to entertain for 1 second a map. But you know, I am a right-wing extremist bigot. Leave the kids alone is the same as saying Heil Hitler nowadays.
They're very young, getting taught this without any medical backing. They're going to, like, oh, yes, you are something. It's not even, hey, you're going to be presenting as something as trans. It's no, you just decide and you will have. So I have to explain to 17-year-olds that, no, like, you will not be a male. You will be presenting as one. And they don't understand that. And so I'm very concerned with that. And people think I'm lying, but my son has a dinosaur in his class.
Right.
Like, what's going on? This is way beyond, reasonable. And I think my thing that's been...
Oh, man. I never thought this would happen. You guys remember the movie The Step Brothers? When the dad's telling him to follow their dreams? And he's like, I always wanted to be a dinosaur. And I would walk around with my short arms like a T-Rex. And my dad said, you're not a dinosaur. Well, he didn't really say that. He said, quit being an asshole and get a fucking job. And he goes, and I always told myself I'd come back to it. That's the reality we're living in. This was a joke in Step Brothers. I'm a T-Rex. But Dad, you can't be a T-Rex. You're a human being. Little did we know how bigoted that movie was, telling that old man that he couldn't be a T-Rex. Absolutely offensive.
About is we're still the main practitioners talking about it. It's hard that Matt has to be the ones that are speaking about politically. I have to hang out with the Nazis in order to talk about it. I am, going to...
We're a dangerous bunch over here.
Yeah, I knew going to twice that I couldn't pretend that I didn't know the first time. So, but we need to say something. I don't know what is exactly going on. That I have some counselors that are calling me, but more countries like Singapore, Italy have been emailing me asking for help, but not professionals here. And I don't know what's going to take to wake up, because we have to do it. Or, I went on Jordan Peterson because we're going to start getting sued. And I don't know when we're going to look at that.
If you can't be pressured by the online mob, you'll be pressured by the financial mob.
Yes.
You'll be pressured by the legal mob. You'll be pressured by all of these things. What strikes me about the two of you is you're so moderate. You're so open-minded to these views. You're really not ideological in...
That's
And
hilarious. That's what
yet
I was
it
thinking.
seems like perhaps because of that, people are going after you with particular vigor.
That's what I was going to say. Is it's hilarious that they go after these women for saying that they're Nazis and they're bigoted and stuff, and it's like, well, damn. Do not watch the Swamp Channel. You will die of cardiac arrest by watching 15 seconds of any of my videos. Debra, what is her name? Debra Soh or Sue or whatever her name is. She still even believes that these things are real and we need to treat them. I am not anywhere near that. This is all nonsense. This is. I'm not willing to entertain this to any degree. Like, I've heard this tons of times, like from supposedly right-wing people or supposedly conservative people that, well, I'm not saying that there aren't legitimate trans people out there. There clearly are. There's just, but no, I'm sorry. There is no such thing as a legitimately transgender person. It doesn't exist. There is a mentally ill person. A transgender person doesn't exist. And these women are incredibly moderate. Way to the left of me culturally. I mean, I don't know what their politics are, but, culturally, the way we call right and left, way to the left of me, and they get called Nazis. It proves the point that Debra was making it when she first started talking, that she's realized over the last year that she can't talk to these people anymore. She can't be reasonable with them. She can't do it. Not because she doesn't want to, but you cannot do it. It is impossible. If you try to be reasonable with them, they will not reciprocate. They will not talk to you in good faith, ever. They'll just call you a Nazi and tell you to die. Which is not the foundation for a great discussion. As far as I can tell, anyway.
The crazy thing is, I find, is they don't even represent, well, I can't speak for you, but for me, they don't represent my views at all in terms of when they try to argue against me. It's very much they straw man my position. And at first I thought maybe they just don't understand what I'm saying, or maybe they are misguided. But I really think in some cases they intentionally misrepresent us because they don't want to have to engage with us. They don't want to have to actually understand.
No, they would never do that.
Into it and try to understand the nuance. It's so much easier just to make up a boogeyman and then attack that, and then also get all of their friends and their colleagues to come after us, because when you create this horrible creation of somebody or of your critics and you demonize them, it's much easier to get people amped up and angry.
Now, what about the colleagues? Because we talk a lot about maybe parents calling you, maybe patients calling you. You are so prominent in terms of your fields. Do you have colleagues calling you saying, hey, keep up the good fight, hey, I'm on your side, hey, I'd like to help out, or are you standing alone?
I tell people, I joke that I'm the mafia boss and I don't know what. But I mean, people call me, well, what are we going to do about it? Like, what's the next step? And I talked to Matt. That was step one, I guess. I don't know what's next. But yeah, I mean, that I do get a lot of calls saying, well, what can we do? Is there a group? Is there something? And I think we're developing it. I've been working a lot with Stella O'Malley in Ireland, because they have, in GenSpec, they seem to be doing something. But we don't have a professional group yet here. And
But are these people willing to go public? Remains to be seen.
They want to be on a list. Yeah. They want to be on the list.
On a secret list.
Yes.
Right. That's why, because I get the same question all the time. What can we do about it? And the answer is, well, you can start by saying something. Yeah. Rather than, because it's if we're out here and we have the mob descending on us and ripping us to shreds, and you're like hiding off in the bushes somewhere, it's like, hey, good job out there.
Attaboy, buddy.
Right. The best thing that so rather than, because I think we tend to think of this in like general terms, and think, well, what can society do? What can everyone do? Well, what can you individually do? And especially if you're in a professional field that deals with this, just to say anything publicly to indicate that you're one of the sane ones would be a huge first step, at least. And
I am surprised that it seems like the sports is going the farthest, and I wouldn't have guessed that. But it's because they're speaking out. There's 5 of them at least. I don't have. I mean, maybe a couple of us therapists, right? But that has surprised me, that that's what might take it all farther, is that in jail.
You know, you have insight not only on the issue of sex and gender, you also have incredible insight into media, because we are now about to be joined by people who are fighting this battle in the realm of women's sports, and from the perspective of one of the groups that is most attacked by transgender ideology, and that is young women.
Let's say a male says, I'm a woman. Doesn't bother you that he says that?
No,
but do you think it's true, though?
No, I don't think it's true, but I will not disrespect a person.
I think for probably most of human history, this would have been the most uncontroversial question in the world, right? Like, what is a woman? Nobody say, well, we know what a woman is.
Yeah.
So why is it controversial now?
Because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, or you say the wrong thing. Be respectful and abide by what they would prefer to be called as.
I don't want to be a man, and I don't want to date a man that's a woman, or a woman that's a man. But you know what? To each their own.
America is land of the free, so whatever makes you happy, you do what you do, so long as you're not hurting anybody in the process.
The Toon Squad, this guy out here.
You can't get along with nobody in this world, you feel me? And what you got going on don't bother me.
This has been one of the weirdest things to see happen and develop over the years, is this whole, well, you do whatever you want. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I mean, anyone can do whatever they want. A fundamental misunderstanding of what liberty and freedom is, and what rights are, and complete misunderstanding. This faux libertarian nonsense. It really just became popular because it makes it so that you don't have to engage in anything in the world. Now I don't have to have an opinion on anything. Oh, well, you do whatever you want, and hey, it's none of my business. And really? Because I guarantee you, that person that you're talking about, that transgender person that you're saying, oh, well, I'll just whatever. It doesn't matter. What, I don't care. If they were asked about you, they would have some opinions. And they'd have no problem talking about how you're an asshole, you're a bigot, you're a terrible person, you should be put in jail for hate speech, all the stuff they say. So what is this weird, is it like faux libertarian thing? This is not a position. And I've found that this is the majority position of at least people I've talked to. Oh, well, just people can do whatever they want, man. It's not my place to say blah, blah. Okay, fine. I'm not saying, based on your opinion, you have to go then now force that person to change their lifestyle, but I am asking your opinion. What is your opinion? No, I don't know, man. It's stupid. Get out of here. Apparently, having an opinion in and of itself is just not appropriate. You're not allowed to even have an opinion. I can say 100% that I disagree absolutely with everything in the trans ideology. 100%. Does that mean that I'm now going to go attack the next trans person I see? Obviously not. That's stupid. A genuine live and let live type mentality means that I also get to live the way that I want, which means I get to say what I think about this. And I think it's stupid. And if you ask me, I'm going to tell you. The genuine live and let live thing is, unless you come to me, I have no reason to even talk to you about it. But if you're going to come to me and ask me, then yes, I have an opinion on this. Here it is. This fake liberal libertarian nonsense. It's not true. We used to call this being a pussy.
I feel like it's kind of messed up when people hate crimes or gender bash, or I guess what it's called.
People are free to do what they want and be who they want now that they could never have done 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
That's very clear.
Are you a conservative pundit?
What's that?
Are you a conservative pundit?
I'm conservative, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, yeah, never mind. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that conversation. The main question I think we face as
I think it's hilarious that they even asked him when you can obviously tell from the get-go just based on the way he's dressed compared to everyone else around. Bring back judging a book by its cover. I'm telling you. These people walking around and these big fat guys who look gross, not doing no effort to try to present themselves in a decent way. Look at Matt Walsh, guy who's clearly in shape, clean, dressed nicely. Are you a conservative pundit? No. Total coincidence that I look this way. Bring back judging a book by its cover, you guys. Or as I like to call it, using your brain.
society with this issue is what is a woman?
Wow, I think
It's what you feel comfortable with.
I don't know.
What do you say?
Biologically capable of giving birth.
And you have
I'm light in love. I'm not going to put definitions on anything.
Okay.
It's not my job. It's not what I've been put on earth for. I'm just going to put love and light everywhere I go. And whatever you
Total
decide,
bullshit.
what you think you want to be, what you are, what you decide tomorrow.
Total bullshit.
In the most
Total
simplest
bullshit.
terms, a human being that can carry and deliver a baby.
We've got two paragons of light and love with us right now, two heroes of the fight to protect women's sports. Before we get to that, though, I don't want to get too off track, but I feel we have to address the 180-pound naked man in the room.
180 pounds is generous, by the way.
I was trying to be
I saw
polite to the. How'd you meet him?
I mean, I was forced into that. It's like a form of workplace violence, really. I was forced to have that conversation with a naked man.
Forced by one Mr. Justin Falk.
Yeah, I was not. We saw the guy walking by, and Justin said, we should talk to that guy. And I said, no, we shouldn't. Yeah. And next thing I know, I look over, and he's talking to the guy and motioning me over. And that's what happened.
I'm like, Matt, you got to commit to this. If we're going to make this film, a naked guy's got to be part of this at some point, and here's our opportunity. So let's go talk to this guy.
I'm really glad that you guys did not curse us with the wide shot on that interview. That was relatively close up. Ladies, wonderful to have you with us on the topic of protecting women's sports. So, Selena, we've seen you in the movie. You were a high school athlete. You have now been one of the main leaders of the fight to keep men out of the women's locker room. Paula, we have not seen you before. We've heard from you, but we have not seen you before because you were you were in shadows in the movie for fear of retribution here. And now the shadows are gone, and
that's what I talked about.
Exactly who you are.
I did. I mentioned that towards the beginning, right when I started this stream. I saw the tweet from Matt Walsh that he's got a new thing out. It was like 27 minutes long, 28 minutes long, or something of interviewing her. So there you go. Wow, I had no idea.
You are a former UPenn swimmer who swam on the team with that dainty swimmer, William Leah Thomas. Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. I say when I started this stream, I just saw the tweet that has the interview with her, different interview, as far as I could tell, since it was just her and Matt Walsh, right when we started the stream, saying that, oh, unmasked, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think one of my biggest things was, at that time I was still a student at Penn. You know, obviously you can't go to the university. Like the university you go to, you can't go and bash them publicly while you're still a student there. I'm a year removed from that now, and I think also there was pressure from my family to do the traditional thing and go, be quiet, sit at your desk, do a corporate job. And it's taken about a year of discussions within my family to realize it's time to come out. So here I am, no shadows.
Did you fear reprisal?
Yeah, I mean, I had already received a lot of backlash internally from people I knew.
Yeah, I think it's funny is how is it consistently true? The women who tend to speak out against this and are the most hated by the trans leftists look like this. They are aesthetically pleasing to the eye. It's just my misogyny showing.
At school, from just speaking out anonymously.
From classmates or from
Classmates
administrators?
and teammates and professors also that knew about it as well. Yeah.
Wow. But at this point, cat's out of the bag. You feel you've got to come out and speak up.
Yeah, and I think like people like Selena like obviously inspires me, and I think like you've done so much in the fight and litigation, and it's been wonderful. And I'm also from Connecticut as well, so that does hit a little close to home. And I've known about her story, and just knowing that we need to stand up for other girls. I'm not swimming anymore. I'm never going to compete competitively again, most likely. So it's not about me, and it's about everyone else that needs to be protected. And obviously, she's got a huge part of that fight. She's doing such great things already, and I want to join her.
Selena, I remember when I came across your story years ago, I guess, at this point, and you were running in Connecticut, high school athlete, and you start to have your accolades taken away by men.
Yeah, I had to compete against about at least one biological male throughout all 4 years of high school. After a year and a half, one that competed as a man for 3 seasons, decided to switch over.
And you know, since we're going down this road of misogyny, she's probably good looking, like, but I was really only into the fake hair color and the extreme weird colors when I was in high school and maybe starting college. So now I gotta say, I would assume that maybe she's good looking if she got rid of all that stuff. It seems like maybe. Man, this has become the misogyny stream. Leftists scream when good-looking woman speaks.
Girls team and began to dominate in the girls field, and I never had a fair race when I raced against those 2 athletes. We knew before we even got into the blocks, before we even got on the bus to get to the meet, that we knew that we were going to come third and beyond, that there was no way that we were going to be able to come in first. And they would be done with the 100-meter dash, chest bumping each other while the rest of us girls were at the 80-meter mark. It was just never a fair contest.
So then what impelled you to bring this to court? I mean, you have in many ways been leading the legal fight on this issue. Why didn't you just sort of say, okay, well, I guess I'll take second place, I guess I'll take third place, I don't want to rock the boat?
So my mother and I actually began fighting it locally. We did it old school with the petition, going around to other people at meets. And once I lost out on qualifying for the New England Championships in the indoor season in 2019, when I was at that meet in 2 other events, I ended up getting all New England honors in those 2 events. So I was forced into the sideline in the 55-meter dash. That was my last straw, and I said that we need to ask for these policies to be restored and let women have their fair chance at sports. And filing the lawsuit was the last resort. We talked to school administrators, legislators, we talked to the CAC. They didn't want to deal with this issue. They shifted around the blame there, and it's just, we had no choice but to file the Title IX complaint and then the lawsuit.
So you didn't rush to court. You tried to pursue these other avenues. Those were shut off to you. So, I mean, you've been following these cases as long as I have. We've got a kind of a conservative court, but the court also seems to be affirming the transgender ideology. How is this going to turn out?
I'm not sure exactly how it's going to turn out, but I'm hoping that we will have a resolution in our favor someday, and that there's some out there that will take a stand to protect women's sports because it's the right thing to do.
So I have a question for you, Selena. So the first year that you had to race against a male, what year was that?
That was 2017, my freshman year of high school.
So I'm curious for you, 2017, that's years before most people really woke up to this issue. So it was a very lonely fight early on. So how did that feel early on when you were struggling against this and hardly anyone was talking about it? And how do you feel the progress has been culturally on this issue?
Well, I warned everyone that this wasn't going to be an isolated incident when I started speaking out in 2018, and now it's appearing in almost every sport at every level internationally. But I'm so glad that there are other girls out there like Paula that have decided to stand up and join me in the fight, because it's going to be much easier to fight this with the more voices that we have.
Paula, the man who swam on your swim team, I think got a lot of national attention because it was just so obvious. It was he's just a big, giant guy. And what was most disturbing about Will Thomas's rise as a student athlete was not even him taking the trophies and him appearing in the leotard or whatever. It was that there was the leotard, as it were. Wow, I'm a sucker for
call it whatever
fun.
you want.
I was most disturbed by the other girls on the team.
I have to say, I am definitely a Paula fan. Does she have a YouTube channel? I'm a fan.
Had to pretend that it was all okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I mentioned this in an interview I did with Matt, but the brainwashing the university put on, like, I honestly give the University of Pennsylvania props. There was a girl on the team who was so upset, crying about it, saying, like, she swam the same events as Leah, and went to go meet with someone in the athletic department and came back from the meeting and was like, we're going to be so supportive. We're going to just spread love. I don't know what went on in that meeting. And there was meetings that they had with the whole team that worked. And I mentioned this also with Matt, that, you know, there was a night after they met with us, and I called my family on the phone and I said, I can't talk about this anymore. I said, I need to be quiet. I need to just, and I literally stayed in my room for 2.5 days without leaving, because I was so scared that, like, someone was going to come up to me and say, how dare you speak about this publicly or anonymously to the media or any way at all. It was just like they did such a great job of instilling fear in everyone.
One of the most disturbing things from the film for me was when you talked about how the university came and met with all the female swimmers, and they offered all of you counseling if you could not bring yourselves to accept Leah Thomas as a woman. So because you're the ones who have a psychological problem in that, not Leah Thomas, it's you. It's gaslighting. You know?
I believed that I had a psychological problem. I got my own therapist, and I tried to talk to a therapist about it. I'm not even kidding.
You're kidding me.
No, well, for a moment, I was like, maybe I'm just not being accepting. Like, I did have this one moment where I was like, maybe I'm missing something here and I need help, maybe. I did one session and I was like, no, I know that I'm right. I know that this is the truth. And I'm not going to let someone tell me that that's not.
It reminds me
correct.
of that old TV show, The Munsters. I watched it on reruns. I'm not that old. But The Munsters is this family of monsters who are all scary vampires. And there's one beautiful blonde woman, and she thinks she's the...
That really, really pisses me off. That makes me incredibly angry. The fact that I mean, I know what these people do is evil, of course. I mean, we know that, but it makes me incredibly angry when you can actually hear someone talk about how I was starting to buy it for a second. I was starting to think this and wonder, you know, and it's like, that's what's so evil. You take a good person, a logical, sane person, and start to corrupt them, and that angers me to no end. That is just fucked up. These people are terrible. They're just... oh, man. Sorry, that just really, really pissed me off. What the fuck, man? Stop preying on people. And believe, trust your own instincts. Don't start to think that, oh, maybe I'm wrong about this. Oh God, that pisses me off to hear. I feel bad. Feel bad for her. But what a strange world we live in. God.
The ugly one. Because she doesn't, and it makes me think of you, where you say, I don't think that men are really women, and I don't think women should be forced to compete against men. I guess I'm the crazy one. I guess I'm the hateful one, the irrational one.
Yeah, and this therapist talked me through like why people are transgender and like what transgenderism is and like why it's so important for them to be, transitioning and whatever. And I was like, and again, like I'm a very loving and caring person, and like that, like when you play on my heartstrings and like you tell me something emotional, like you do get me. And there's a few moments where I was like, oh wow, maybe I'm really in the wrong here. And then it was very brief. It was like 12 hours, and then I was like right back to this is so unfair and this is not right, and we need to tell the real truth.
I thought it was interesting. Everybody we talked to in the film that was on the other side of this, they all had the same exact argument. They said, no, this isn't really happening. If a biological male, trans woman wins an event, it's kind of an anomaly. It just happens. They just happen to maybe work harder than the rest of the girl. But really, like I think Rodrigo, who's the guy from the Transgender Center in Washington, D.C., said this. I think Marcy Bowers said it. They basically discounted the fact that anybody's actually affected by this. There aren't any real victims, and by doing so, they're basically denying biological reality. And you got to see that biological reality probably a little bit too up close than you wanted to.
Yeah, definitely. And I know Selena has as well. Like she was showing me some pictures in the green room of some of these athletes that she had to race against. And, let's just say they're very obviously male.
And the establishment that's been pushing this ideology, it's not showing any signs of holding up. I mean, clearly, even just from the courageous work that you are doing, there is a pushback by the people here, but by women and men and all sorts of people. But the elites who are pushing it, they're not letting up. And in certain other countries, I think of America's Top Hat up in Canada, they've gone even further on this ideology. And we have our Canadian friend, Jordan Peterson, coming up to discuss what's going on up there. Thank you both for coming on. Thank you both for fighting this fight when a lot of other cowardly people want to run away from it. You've done a wonderful job of that. If you think things are bad here in the United States, just think about the father who was up in British Columbia and was arrested for quote unquote misgendering his daughter.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks for taking a moment to talk to us again.
Yeah, no problem.
So your story in What Is a Woman is one of the most powerful parts of the film, and it's one that I get asked about probably the most. People want to know where it stands right now, what's happening with your case. So I was hoping we'd just jump right into it. I mean, first of all, are you still banned from talking publicly about your story?
I am, yeah. I'm still under my own gag orders, and then there's publication bans on top of that for everybody else. So, yeah, none of that has changed. And I know in the What Is a Woman documentary, that I think the last thing mentioned there was I was going to be going to court in November, and that's been delayed. So my court date is actually tomorrow.
Yeah, why was it delayed?
In this case, it was my delay to get it to tomorrow, where I'm appealing the sentence. I was a first-time offender by telling a story about my child that I thought everyone deserved to kind of know what was going on in the schools and the reality of what parents were not being told. And I do interviews on that, and I get a 6-month prison sentence as a first-time offense. And so that's why tomorrow is important, is because this is the precedent that this government here is trying to set as a deterrent for any parent that has a child going through this, decides, hey, I want to make some noise and say something what's going on, but they're going to understand that they're facing a humongous penalty for saying anything in opposition to this agenda. My best case scenario is that I walk out of court in the next number of days, however long this takes, and in the panel of 3 BC Supreme Court judges, at least 2 of them agree that my 2 months was sufficient, and that is the penalty, and I walk away with time served. So there's a bunch riding on this. I mean, not just for me personally. I mean, obviously for me personally, it's obvious what's riding on it, 4 months of jail, but even for people in British Columbia and in Canada, there's a lot riding, because that's a big deterrent to go from 2 months to 6 months.
If you lose tomorrow, if the tyrannical side wins out, what happens to you then?
My lawyer says 70% chance I'm going back to jail to finish out that term. She says she's never seen the government behave in this way. She's like, they have made this their top priority, this case, or not letting it go.
You're saying that's based on the political bias against you. The government is just determined to see this all the way through.
That's it, yes. Because in any other case, common sense would almost dictate that, I've been out on bail now it's been about 2 years. And my bail conditions are pretty strict, like super strict. And so one would think in any other case, it'd be like, fine, he's already spent a couple months in jail anyways. Let's just let this go. But they won't. And that's exactly it. Like we were saying, and what my lawyer says too, is that it's just so political. They just have to see this through. They've got to make this example.
How are you personally feeling heading into tomorrow?
I was optimistic, but because I don't see anything changing politically, the climate here in British Columbia, and I face it as if I expect the 4 months. However, if I get good news, then obviously I'll be thrilled. But I'm mentally prepared for what I think is going to happen, which is kind of the worst case scenario.
What do you think needs to happen in Canada to start moving it in the direction of sanity and common sense?
I have no idea. It's because you would think we'd be there already. U.S. states seem to be heading in the direction of common sense, at least many states, watching some of the stuff going on in the States, the battles. But wow, I'm so impressed. And like I said, I know you were part of the thing in Tennessee with the signing there with the governor. And Canada is doubling down on this stuff. I think they see what is happening, and I think feel like somehow we are the safe haven for perversion. Like I'm watching this euthanasia stuff sweeping in right now, and I know we're the laughing stock of the world. I mean, the poll just came.
I did just make a video about that, actually. Well, it was a clip from my Friday show, but the euthanasia thing. And you know what? I think this is as good a time as any to announce, as we're getting towards the end of this, because of people like David Hogg and others on Twitter, their new thing to ask, because they can't answer what is a woman, is to say, what is woke? I'm going to put together a little video, a little mini documentary about this. So if you have an answer to that question, what is woke? Email it to me, message me on Twitter. Initially I wanted to actually go out and film and talk with people. I'll probably do some filming, but I've talked to this idea came up just 2 days ago. I've talked to a lot of people already about it, and there's a lot of people that are interested, but there's very few people who want to actually be on camera. So I think where I'm going to go with this, if you want to be on camera, you can use your webcam and give an explanation for what is woke. But if you just want to do an audio file, or you want to just send text of your explanation, initially I wanted it to be mostly on camera with me, the avatar, sliding in and out of the camera. I thought it'd be pretty funny. But I actually think what it's going to end up being, from the responses I've been getting, is people are interested and they want to give their thoughts on this. But a lot of people don't want to be on camera. So text or audio, if you want to be on camera, we can do that. And I'm going to tie it into all the things that this channel has been showing for 2 years now. Show a lot of the clips from the old What a Wonderful World series that I did for about a year. And, just some funny stuff, I think. I think it's because it's interesting that they think that this is a response, is to try to throw it back. Well, what is what is woke? You say woke all the time. And I did tweet about this, where, Bog, you're right, I tweeted about this yesterday, saying it's hilarious that this is now their go-to when they created the word and they were totally happy with it being completely ambiguous. It not really having a meaning until it became an insult. And people actually started knowing the word and started saying, you're woke, and it was meant derogatory, Now all of a sudden they want to know the meaning of it. Now it's really important to define it. okay, I don't think this is a winning strategy for you guys because we can define it. And more importantly, we can show it. I mean, we can show you what it is. So if you're interested in that, definitely send me an email, Swamp Talks YT for YouTube, swamptalksyt@gmail.com. Or, of course, go to Twitter, send me a message on there. We can make it happen. Like I said, there's only been 2 people who said that they actually wanted to be on camera for it. But I think the beautiful thing is that's what we do on this channel. It's all animation. So if you want to be in it, send me text or audio, and I will animate something with it to go along with it. So you don't have to show your face, and of course, we won't put any names out there, unless you want it. But I don't see any reason to put any names out there. I mean, obviously, Swamp isn't my real name. But I just think it's hilarious. I've noticed this a lot on Twitter, that this has become the retort, the reactions, because What is a Woman is obviously incredibly popular. Well, what is woke? You say woke all the time. What's woke? Well, see, here's the thing. You can't give even one definition of what a woman is. I can definitely give you a definition of woke. That is easy. And even better, I can show it to you. Like I said, I can show you what woke is. So yeah, if you're interested in that, email me. We can talk about it on the Discord if you want. If you're on the Discord, you want to join the Discord, you can message me on Discord, and we can kind of discuss it and see, what you're willing to do. As soon as I saw this on Twitter, I just thought, well, that's easy as hell. I'll do it. I mean, I guarantee you, every person that uses the word woke in a derogatory manner, like I do, has no problem and would be eager to give you a definition. This is not the same as the what is a woman argument. You can't define it. Everyone who uses woke in an insulting way can't wait to define it. I'll tell you what I think it is. So I think that'll be fun. I mean, if we can get even 20 minutes, 25 minutes, or hell, if we can get an hour out of it, that would be awesome. So, yeah. Send me some text, send me some audio, send me video, something, and I'll start putting it together. What is woke? I think that everything about this documentary is does a good job of defining it without even having to define it. But sure, we'll do it. Let's do it. They think it's a gotcha. Let's do it.
Came out that apparently Canadians are 30% in favor of euthanizing poor people. And I have people I know that have physical and mental handicaps, and they're terrified. The child in high school who's 12 years old can say, I just broke up with my girlfriend, or I just failed the test. I'm feeling really depressed. I would like to be euthanized. And the parents get a call because they don't need any parental consent, just like they did with my child when it came to the sterilization and the hormones. And they'll say, yeah, your child is at the funeral home. I've been trying to wake people up for 5 years in this country, and I don't know. I mean, thank God people are waking up in the U.S. Like it wasn't in vain.
Well, at least it starts. It's got to start with a voice in the wilderness, which is what you are, and we really appreciate your courage. And we're pulling for you. We're praying for you. And thanks again for talking to us.
Yeah, no, thank you, and congratulations. Yeah, 1 year. That's funny. June 1, Pride Month.
Yeah.
It's
a good time. It's a good anniversary to have it. Okay, exactly. Thank you.
Love it. All right, thank you.
Had I not heard that interview, I would not have believed it was possible for a man to actually be sent to prison for calling his daughter she. Maybe I would have joked about it, or I said that happens in North Korea. That is happening in America's top hat. And we are now joined by a Canadian who knows this sort of thing firsthand, the great Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. Jordan, thank you for making it for this one-year reunion of the movie. How is that real?
Well, laws have consequences. You know, when this broke back in 2016, when the law making it illegal to not use someone's pronouns, let's say, was passed, I was assured by the legal scholars, so to speak, some of whom were from British Columbia, that my concerns that this would ever result in, you know, genuine legal penalties like prison, that was just scaremongering on my part. And I thought, well, it's a law. If you break the law, then you're put in court. And if you don't stop, then you're going to be subject to the full penalties of the law, because that's what a law is. And so, and here we go. You know, and his case is absolutely catastrophic. And you might say, well, it's an isolated incident. First of all, incident like this is not isolated. And second of all, there's all sorts of crazy things happening in Canada. So, you know, you walk in the direction you aim at. And this is where Canadians aimed. And I think my country, you know, for a long time you could be complacent in Canada because fundamentally the institutions were sound. You could essentially trust the political parties. You could trust the socialists to represent the working class to the degree that they did that. The Liberals were a centrist party. The Conservatives were the party of big business. Everyone knew that. People were playing basically a straight game. The newspapers were trustworthy. So were the educational institutions and the courts. That's all done with. We're done with that. And maybe worse in Canada than anywhere else. Maybe worse than New Zealand. Yeah, it's quite something. You know, there's a bit of positive emerging, I suppose. Pierre Poilievre, who's the leader of the Conservatives, seems to have a spine. Danielle Smith maintained control over Alberta and its fossil fuel resources in an election that was insanely close. The Socialists just about got control of the third largest oil reserves in the world. That was 2 days ago. Scott Moe, who runs Saskatchewan, he's got a bit of a spine and he's standing up to Trudeau. And so, you know, it's possible that this will be reversed, but Canadians just have they're completely asleep on this.
And you did see it coming. It occurs to me just now. You first came
told
to
the
public
Senate what was going to happen.
You know, it's amazing because you've done so much since all this time that you kind of forget how you first came to public consciousness. It was over this issue. It was
absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I knew that compelled speech was a catastrophe. It's like the government made a law saying what you had to say. No political system derived from the English common law tradition had ever done anything like that. In fact, the Supreme Court in the United States made that unconstitutional, ruled that that was unconstitutional, I think in 1942, like explicitly. And you know, I watched that bill go through. I thought, what the hell is going on here? I really didn't care one way or another about the trans issue, you know, although that's become just this unbelievable, bloody, catastrophic, parody, murderous, you know, and well, here we are. That's what happens when you let the government control your speech.
Yeah, I think also, you know, the groundwork for this is it's before the law. So that's what, you know, in the United States, we look at what's happening in Canada, and we like to think that, well, it's inconceivable that we would throw parents in prison here for misgendering their kids.
Yeah,
but
they'll do it in California.
They'll do it.
Oregon.
They'll do it. And one of the reasons that they'll do it before the law, we just listen to the words that they're using.
It's definitely, I mean, I understand why he says that some people would think it's inconceivable that would happen here. Obviously, Matt doesn't believe that. And no one else on this panel believes that. It is not inconceivable at all. It's actually the only logical outcome to what we're doing. Can I try to do a Jordan Peterson? Well, you know, it's the only way that at the end of all of this is what you're going to end up in is in America you're going to be put in prison for these supposed offenses. I've never done a Jordan Peterson voice before. How did I do?
Listen to the arguments that they're making. And the moment that they tell us that misgendering is a form of violence,
yeah,
and that if you're misgendering, you're a terrorist and it's abusive, they're already saying all of that. And if that's true, Like if it's true that it's violent abuse to misgender someone, then you should go to prison for it. But it's not true, obviously. So the moment they win that argument and people accept that, then all the rest of this is just
it follows.
It follows logically.
Right. Well, that's the problem with things that follow logically is they follow.
That's what I just said.
I wonder, especially from your perspective as an academic.
Are we actually going to hear Jordan Peterson say what I did, my impersonation of him? That's what I said.
Public intellectual. I don't want to sound like an old ornery man saying things always used to be better in the past and kids these days don't know anything. When I look at the commencement exercises from Harvard and Yale and Princeton in the 18th century, 19th century, early 20th century, they were debating serious philosophical, epistemological questions in Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. And today, the people at the elite universities are listening to entertainers crack jokes with no point whatsoever. The education is just gone. Our sense of ourselves and our political order is just gone. Is this a crisis of the elites? I mean, if we don't know the answer to the question, what is a woman? And
the universities are done. You know, when Elon took over Twitter, he fired 80% of the people. I've heard through the grapevine that he probably has to fire half of the remaining 20%.
That seems that's apparent now.
Yeah, right. And the universities are in the same situation. Like, they're not repairable. So what I saw happen over 3 decades was that the administration encroached on the faculty. And every time they did that, so that'd be like 3,000 times, the faculty stepped backwards. And I used to tell my colleagues, why are you saying yes? And they'd say, well, we won't get what we want if we don't agree. And I said, well, are you getting what you want now? It's like, well, no, but it'll get worse. It's like, have it your way. And so then the administration took over the university, and then the woke types took.
You know, because this was an impromptu stream, I didn't add any of the pinned comments and stuff. Join the Discord for friends, you guys. You know, let me throw it in the chat. And like I said, you can message me on the Discord with your what is woke stuff. There we go. I'll pin that. It was a very impromptu stream. I was just going to go straight to Discord, but decided well, I was testing if I could stream to Discord, and it took quite a while trying to figure out how to do it. It's really funky to get the video and the audio and all that stuff, but now it's going to both. And I was like, well, if I can get it to go to both, I might as well go live on YouTube. So yeah, going forward, all the streams, the Saturday streams, the Friday streams, TikTok Tuesday will also be going to Discord. So hopefully we can maybe have a little bit more of a free, uncensored chat and discussion on Discord. And as I've said before, I can mute my YouTube mic and still have it go to Discord. So you'll get the you can get the uncensored swamp on Discord. Beware.
Took over the administration, and that happened much faster. But the precedent had already been established, and it was the faculty's fault. As far as I'm concerned, it was like just constant acts of micro cowardice, you know. And so, how do you repair that? Cornell put together, hypothetically, like a panel to investigate bolstering free speech at Cornell, but then they stacked the panel with DEI types, of course, and so that's not going to work. It was all for show. And so now, you know, does that mean that higher education is doomed? It's like, no, I don't think so. There's all sorts of technological workarounds, and there's a huge opportunity on the educational front to get things right and in a much less expensive manner. But I can't see that the universities are salvageable. And the woke types are trying to take out the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics specialties, and they'll do that because those people don't have a political bone in their body. They have no idea how to fight off the woke types who went through the humanities and then the social scientists. So I can't see that being repaired. The granting agencies are completely corrupt. Well, and in California, I think it's 75% of applicants for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics entry-level positions at universities have their dossiers set aside without their research even being evaluated because
Man, that jacket Peterson's rocking, that's badass. I'd rock that. And you can tell the leather also goes on the back too. That's sick. You know, there's a lot of things that people can say about Jordan Peterson. They can insult him for a lot of reasons, but you can't call him a bad dresser. Guy's got style. Hate it or love it, he's got style.
their diversity, equity, and inclusivity statements are insufficient. And that's California. It had one of the greatest state education systems in the world. So we're done with that.
Do you think a parent right now with an 18 or 19-year-old kid or 17-year-old kid, should they dissuade their kids from going to college?
It depends on the college, but broadly speaking, yes, especially if it's expensive. It's like, no, why would you send someone to a institution that panders and propagandizes? And it's a weird combination of corporate speak stupidity. Our students are customers, they're consumers. It's like, no, they're not. They're not consumers, not in the classic sense. And then kowtowing to the woke mob, and letting their claims to compassion stand unchallenged, which is also quite stunning because the real woke radicals are anything but compassionate. They use that 100% as camouflage. The worst of them are predatory psychopaths. And the research, by the way, on that front is indicating that with great clarity. Dark tetrad types, Machiavellian, so manipulative, psychopathic, that makes them predatory parasites, narcissistic, so they want unearned status, and
the dark triad.
That wasn't enough. The researchers had to add sadism to that in the last 3 years because it turns out that if you have...
Man, that's hilarious. Clearly, we now know why they hate him so much. Because that's exactly how I would describe all of this stuff. It is the dark triad, 100%. Or it's not triad, it's quad now. It's the dark quadratic. No, 100%. Absolutely. The amount of psychopathy or psyopathy, whatever, that you have to be on the side of not just the transgender thing, because that's obviously what we're talking about. That's the biggest focus right now because is the most actual physical danger, the most physical threat to people right now. So obviously we're talking about that, but just in general, the extreme leftist ideologies, you have to be presenting a lot of what would be considered the dark triad. That's not my opinion. That's just factual information. That's the science. And if you don't trust the science, you're a bigot. So trust the science. You crazy fucks.
Those 3 personality trait clusters characterizing you, you also take undue pleasure in the suffering of others. And psychometrically, it appears that having those personality traits is almost indistinguishable on the measurable front from being a left-wing authoritarian. So, and we're compassionate. It's like, no, I don't think so.
Sorry. My trucker hat hit the mic. In case you're wondering, I do wear trucker hats all the time. It's not a bit for the cartoon. Is the link not working? Is that Discord link shouldn't be expired? I put it out. There was a link, an early link that I didn't realize had an expiration date on it, but this one should be open. It should work all the time. It should be an open-ended, unlimited link. Invalid or expired link. It shouldn't be. Really. Oh yeah, it says it's maybe it. I went through and bulk edited all of my videos that had the Discord link, and put this new link in there. And I created it on Discord, invite link, that was supposed to not expire. Yeah, the first one that I made was I didn't realize that there was expiration times on them. Let's see. Well, we won't sit here. I mean, I'll work on it, but I'm not going to sit here and let you just stare at my ugly mug. We'll keep watching the rest of this.
I think you're a complete bloody poisonous snake, and you're using compassion. To
what
hide
a line to come back
on.
on.
Your part, but pure maneuvering for power, and that's why the left-wing radicals say, "Well, everything's about power." It's like, well, that's how you think.
What about reason? What about facts? What about logic? What about reality? When you see the government putting this guy into prison for calling his daughter, for calling her, you want to point to, you say, but here's biology, and here's philosophy, and here's epistemology, and here's the Constitution. And then these people will look.
Oh, I realize, I'm learning all this as I go with the Discord stuff. Man, I'll have to go bulk edit all my videos again. Put the new link in there. Here you go. So I wasn't paying attention, and I had it set to unlimited people could use it, but it still had an expiration date for the link to be valid. Man, Discord goes deep with their crazy stuff. As far as I don't know. I guess it's. I mean, it's annoying that I suck at it, but I get why they do it. I understand it. I mean, the customizability, whatever you want to call it, is cool. But there we go. Oh, Flair, come on. There's a meme channel, brother. You can't just post memes in the chat. There's rules here. You absolute degenerate Philistines. This is just out of control. Uncultured. We've opened the doors to the hordes now. The unwashed masses are pouring in. The intellectual discussion of the Discord is now going to be tainted. No, I just let's pour another drink. Let's go.
Look at you. I'll say, so what?
We don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, what's your point, buddy? All that old stuff. Besides, the right response to that from the radical side is every single word you said was nothing but a justification for your power striving.
Right.
You and your free speech, right? You and your productivity, your merit. All that is you're conniving to mask your power striving. Well, that's the basic claim. So, and well, the reason that holds purchase to some degree is because almost all social interactions between people at all levels are contaminated to some degree with inappropriate striving for power, right? So you can say, well, look at the corruption, and then you can say, well, it's all corruption. It's like, well, at that point, you really have to watch your claim.
Right, because if that's true, then we are in a very dark place. Now, there's much more.
And if it was true, nothing would work.
Right.
And things do work. So obviously, it's not.
Right. Right. It wouldn't. We wouldn't have intelligible speech for that matter. I mean,
or electricity.
That's right. Plumbing. There will be a lot more intelligible speech in your interview, Matt, on Jordan's podcast, which is out now, I believe. Just come out.
He dared to put me on his YouTube channel.
Well, R.I.P. Jordan to your YouTube channel. Went out with a bang, though. So.
No, and it's got about
2.5
times the normal number of views for the time period that it's been out. And YouTube at the moment has left it alone. And so, and I don't think it was a dare, because there's always a risk in these situations, right? The risk is you do it or you don't do it. Those are both risks. And I think it's clear, and it's been clear for me all along, the biggest risk you can possibly take is to let the cat have your tongue. It's like if you can't say what you need to say, you can't think. And if you can't think, you will wander into a pit. And if you don't think there are pits and abysmal pits, you're pretty damn naive. So, people have said to me, you're so courageous, I think. No, you don't understand. I'm just afraid of the right thing.
I'm just seeing ahead what happens
you bet,
if I make the other choice. And you've seen that for years, and you can go listen to that conversation right now on Dr. Jordan B. Peterson.
I actually did listen to that one. It's a good one. And he's absolutely right. But, that's kind of redundant to say after Jordan Peterson speaks.
YouTube channel. I want to thank all of you for coming out, making the time, for all of your work in the film, outside of the film. Even you, Matt, I want to thank you for this.
You're welcome.
Movie. 1 year of this movie, and I want to thank all of you, the viewers, and especially the Daily Wire Plus members who made this movie possible, who funded this movie, and all of the other content that we have out there right now and the content that's coming up in the future. I hope that you know the answer to what a woman is. I think you do. I hope many, many more people as a result of this movie and these conversations will know it as well. Until then, we'll see you next time.
I'm having all kinds of ideas as I'm now able to stream to both platforms. Swamp members only block coming after each stream. I think that might actually be it. I mean, we can do the main show. And of course, like I said, I don't mute the mic on Discord. I just mute it on YouTube. And so I'll say some crazy shit on there. But it's just occurring to me. You can be a member of the Swamp Discord. And, every Friday or something, we'll get the members block, man. Stealing all the ideas from Daily Wire. Stealing What is a Woman to make What is Woke, and now stealing the members block, the all access segment. Because you guys can actually join that. And if I decide that you're not an absolute retarded person, I can open up the voice chat. And we can even talk. I mean, wow, it's crazy. This is all just occurring to me now. Yeah, the Swamp Plus stream. So, okay, wait, how long have we been going? 2 hours. Okay, I guess we'll call it here. I was thinking maybe if it hadn't been going too long, we would watch the Matt Walsh interview that he just posted on Twitter with Paula. But that's we've been streaming for 2 hours, and this is one that I'd actually like to keep up. Because, the really long streams, like Over the Legal Limit and stuff, I always take those down because that's for you. That's for us. Those don't get saved. Those are the good times. Those are over the legal limit. What happens at the bar stays at the bar. So yeah, I think that's it. Let me pull up just so I can throw it on screen. I do want to say thank you to everybody for the interest in this. The year 2 merch has been crazy. It's interesting to compare the year 1 mug sales, which I was blown away by that people bought that, and people emailed me and sent me pictures of one, the Swamp Christmas mug and the Swamp Year 1 mug, which was awesome. This has been even more successful, so I guess I am actually, the channel is growing actually, which is always a trip to actually think about. But here we go. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to turn off the music here. So check it out if you haven't. The Be Armed, Be Dangerous, Be Moral, and the Year 2. Get it while supplies last, because just like the Year 1 merch, it's not going to be up for all that long. It's a trip, man. I mean, again, thank you guys. It's kind of wild how many people are actually interested in it. So I very much appreciate it. Sorry, I was just looking at orders. Because the super chats activate the super chat jukebox, but I probably should have merch orders and PayPal. I mean, I always try to do them when PayPal comes up, if I actually see it. But we do have one order during this stream. Hang on. Nice. All right, we got an order for AR-15 hat and a Year 2 mug during this stream. It was a little while ago, so I'm sorry I missed it when it happened, but I just checked the email. This stuff should activate the Super Chat Jukebox, so let's activate the Super Chat Jukebox.
Stories of fabrications and false. The right lies, the right false stories. They know they're false, it makes no difference.
All right. So if that was you that ordered that, there's your Super Chat Jukebox. Let me see how long this is. Maybe we can stream this on Discord. Since we got some people on Discord. Let me see the... Oh, and another super chat. There we go. Oh. Thank you, sir. Oh, now the super chats are pouring in. Now that I'm looking at the notifications take a minute. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wow, this is taking a long time. Wow. Wait for it. Good Lord. Okay, I thought I didn't realize how long this actually took. Man, you guys must think I ignore super chats because, especially during the Friday shows, I'm not always looking at the chat because I'm doing the show. I didn't realize it took this long. Super chat notification. Is there one? Holy crap. The Streamlabs. Well, Bog, apparently it doesn't like your super chat. Sorry about that. That's not me. That's Streamlabs. You're going to have to take that up with Streamlabs. But you will activate the super chat jukebox. Even if they don't like you. Oh, there we go. Man, that took forever. I can't believe it took that long. All right, we've got guys, we can't. I mean, no, keep doing the super chat fight. I'm down for it, of course, obviously, but we can't. Do we want a bunch of different short little super chat jukebox activations? Or should we just go and play the song itself, the one that everyone wants, as a super chat jukebox? to celebrate the super chat jukebox back to back, we got to play a whole song, right? And you know what I'm going to play. You know that there's only one thing to play if we get 4 super chats back to back. We can't do 4 random ones. 5 random ones. We're doing what needs to be done. All right. Are you ready? Oh, is it since it keeps coming in? You know what we got to do. Sorry, it's not Try Jesus. This is the super chat jukebox. This is not over the legal limit.
The paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murderers, scum. They're on giant death factories, keeping babies alive and selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run.
And you know what? I would jam with this, but I learned on Over the Legal Limit that the mic is not in sync with my desktop audio. And no one told me that. And it's your guys' fault.
She sleeps in the same room with that creepy weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. That woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just
Oh yeah, it'll definitely I can add it to the list for the next album. The next Swamp album for sure.
Literal vampire pot and the goblins are hobbling round coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions of pointed people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed. We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say,
We love our Somalis. We love our Muslims. Oh, they're so good. Oh, they're so sweet.
I was watching Fox News as I worked out this morning.
Oh, Nick Lutzko. That's the guy that made that. I mean, that's a piece of art that absolutely belongs in a museum. That should be a gold. It's got 10 million views. So I mean, he deserves a gold record for that. Oh yeah, there you go. We had quite a few PayPal donations during the Over the Legal Limit stream, which got me there. And now this will be the ammo. This is going to get me the ammo. So yeah, all I have left to buy, and we got there on Saturday during the Over the Legal Limit stream, and now we got this for actually for ammo and for some sights. I want to get some cool digital, some red dots, or maybe some night vision goggles, so we can say "going dark." Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I want to get, but well, I've been sharing pictures of it on some of the streams and on Twitter. I've got what should arrive in the mail tomorrow is the bulk carrier group that's arriving tomorrow, and then what I'm ordering from the Saturday stream from all these PayPal donations that we got on the Saturday stream is the barrel, because I didn't order a completed upper. I actually wanted to be able to, I was considering buying a completed upper with the charging handle and the bulk carrier group and everything, already in there. But I kind of thought twice about that, because I was thinking, well, the whole reason I was doing this was I wanted to know how to build everything. So the last thing I'm ordering is the barrel. Obviously, I'm not building everything from scratch with the barrel, but the charging handle and the bulk carrier group, and I'm going to put them in, and it's going to be great. I'll have a better idea of how this shit actually works. Dude, I was blown away. I never built anything like that before, and when I was building the lower, I didn't realize that everything in there is tension based. I was actually kind of surprised by that. I mean, I've never built one, so I had no idea. The trigger and everything, it's all tension based, spring based, and of course you have to shoot some of that stuff across the room while you're building it. Luckily, it only happened once while I was doing it, but still really cool. So I figured that was the whole point. If that's the point, I'm not going to buy a completed upper. I'll buy the parts and put it together myself. So when I'm shooting this gun, I'll know how it works. All right, guys, I think that's it. If you want to, if you're on Discord, we can watch the latest interview that Matt Walsh just posted with Paula. It's up to you guys. If you're on Discord, you can join the Swamp Live video channel on there. But otherwise, I think we're done on YouTube. Thank you guys so much. My name is Swamp, and I'll see you next time.